program on the ACAP community website, the ACAP Guilford Facebook page, or our YouTube channel. We are so glad to have you join us. For those of you who may not be familiar with who ACAP is, let me tell you a little bit. At its core, ACAP Community is an educational 501c3 nonprofit organization that offers information, resources, support, and community for those of us who are caring for aging parents. As you can tell from our name, our focus is on supporting adults as they care for their aging parents. However, all caregivers are welcome, whether you're an adult child, another relative, a friend, or professional. Each ACAP chapter offers monthly programs that address issues related to aging, family dynamics, and adult-child caregiving. Presenters are experts on the topic they address, and many are or have been caregivers for their own parents or in-laws. ACAP Guilford meets each month on the third Thursday at 6 o'clock in the evening. We meet face-to-face, virtually on our Facebook page, or at the ACAP community website. Past programs from all of our chapters can be viewed on YouTube. We have a wonderful sponsor for tonight's program. Home Instead believes that the comfort of home can't be beat. Home care services allow people to flourish in the home and environment they know and love, while getting a little help also to remain independent and mobile. Home Instead's care services help enhance the aging experience by providing practical support at home. Their care professionals assist older adults with the common activities of daily living, as well as assistance with meal preparation, errands, and other household services. Their goal is to build lasting relationships with the families they serve, along with providing additional support for family caregivers. The Home Instead office in Guilford County has been serving older adults in this area for over 23 years. Each Home Instead office is independently owned and operated and is part of a franchise network of approximately 650 offices nationally and 1,200 offices worldwide. Thank you to Home Instead for its ongoing support of ACAP Guilford. Now let's turn to our program. We would like this to be an interactive program, so if you have questions or comments, please put them in the chat box. You know, the topics of our programs vary every month, often with subject matter that addresses a particular situation or need. Tonight, we recognize that most people, that is 80 to 90% of adults, would like to stay in their homes as they age. We know, though, that there may be difficulties with this, mobility issues, safety concerns, and more. Tonight, we are very pleased that Brian Keith, who's the owner of Access Mobility Repair and Rental Center, will share with us how our aged loved ones can fulfill their wish of staying in place, at least for the most part. Nearly 3 decades ago, Brian became a mobility and rehab equipment provider, working in management, operations, sales, and service. In January 2000, he launched his own mobility business based in Greensboro, North Carolina. Prior to being involved with mobility, Brian worked for a financial firm, first in marketing, then transitioning to managing all government contracts in his business, then reverse mortgages, and finally, he was one of 2 management development trainers for the firm's 100 managers. And prior to banking, Brian spent 10 years on active duty with the U.S. Air Force, another 11 with the North Carolina Air National Guard, and in 2003 with the retired Air Reserves. July marks the end of his military career. Brian has lived in Texas, Maine, Indiana, both Carolinas, and Virginia, as well as an island belonging to Portugal. He and his wife now call Randolph County, North Carolina, home. Brian, welcome.
So good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you. I I want to reiterate the idea that if you do have questions at any point along the way, that you would share that in whatever method you need to in order to pose the question, and then I'll do my best to answer it. You know, I've learned as I get older, I know very little. I know what doesn't work, and so I'll just resolve to try and get you the best answer that I can. And if I can't help you, I'll try to get you to the right place so that another vendor might be able to help you. So as was mentioned, our business is based in Greensboro. We've been in Greensboro for, I think, since 2012. You know, I'm over 50, so my short-term memory is not what it used to be. Anyway, one of the things that I want to talk with you about is this whole idea of aging in place and what that really means. And so the simplistic answer is it allows you to stay at home comfortably, as independent as possible, and continue to be mobile. And so that means something different for everybody. I was in some homes today, and that means something for each one of those people. But essentially, folks don't seem to they want to go to a facility, and I can understand why. So as you transition in your thinking, you might be saying, well, you know, how do I keep, if you're an adult of some gray-haired people, maybe you're saying, hey, how do I keep mom and dad at home and keep them safe? Well, you know, one of the biggest challenges is getting into the home. And so I field questions almost every day from people who are struggling just to get in, or maybe they're already in and they need to come out of the house. That's a challenge as well. And so let me tell you some things that exist, some products that exist that would allow you to get in and out. And one of those is essentially an aluminum ramp. Our company does not provide wooden ramps. And you might say, well, Brian, why is that? So let me just answer the question and tell you that wood over time we do believe that it's a good fit. It will need maintenance. And for that reason, we just simply do not do them. Those are really custom made things to have a wooden ramp in your home or at the front door. So we only do aluminum. And here's why. There's less hair loss. There's virtually no maintenance. It doesn't rot. It doesn't peel. It doesn't crack. It doesn't warp. It doesn't need painting. It doesn't need any maintenance whatsoever. The neat thing about one of the ramps that we provide is that it can be different widths and lengths. And that is most unusual in the ramp business. I will tell you that most aluminum ramps are 30 inches wide. That is an industry standard. So if you were to call me and you were to say, hey, Brian or BK, I got a challenge. Here's what it is. Hopefully, I'm going to walk you through that whole measuring process. But one of the first things I can tell you is we hopefully can do it in a 30-inch wide setting. 30 inches will accommodate most chairs. Probably 98% of chairs will fit, meaning manual and power will fit on a 30 wide ramp. So if you hear me say 30 wide, I mean 30 inches. Again, the benefit of this particular ramp maker that we do business with is we can create a custom length. So I had a lady, for example, earlier today in Durham. She said, I don't know how much length I need, but this is how much rise I have. Boy, was that helpful. The rise is going to help me determine the length. So the code is 1 inch of rise, 1 foot of length. That's the norm. But that can also generate a lot of challenges. So if you go strictly by the code, your ramp may be in your neighbor's yard. It really just depends on what's going to be on it, meaning the equipment and the weight of the person. And is it a manual or is it a power chair? It could be a mobility scooter. So there's a lot that goes into the questions in order to understand what is the right ramp for you. So let me also just say this to you, that in our business, an extra large t-shirt doesn't fit everybody. It just doesn't work. So, you know, that works at a big department store, but it doesn't work in our business. So One of the first questions that I'm going to ask if you were to talk to me is, tell me about your weight. Tell me about your height. Tell me what equipment you have. And here's one of the most important. What do you want to accomplish? What's the goal? Where do you want to go? Those things are brutally important, so we can try to create something that's going to work for you and it'll be a long-term solution, again, so you can get in or out of the house. So I think I have covered most of what I want to tell you about ramps. Let me transition and let me move into a different area. And again, this would help you get in or out of your home, and it's called a vertical platform lift, also a VPL. Now, there are quite a few on the market. Some are worthy of being on the market, and some don't need to be on the market. And that's a private conversation that I'll have with you when you call me. But suffice it to say that a vertical platform lift is nothing more than a conduit or a vehicle in which to move you from a low to a high place, usually to a porch, a landing, a deck, something. And most basic models will take you from 0 to 50 inches in height. Well, that's a gracious plenty. And for most gray-headed saints, that's really all they need to get where they want to go. And the beautiful thing about a VPL is you go into what I will call a carriage, and it's going to move you and your mobility equipment from point A to point B. There's a safety stop. When you get to where that is, wherever that safety stop is set, you're going to stop. There's usually a ramp door that ushers you onto a landing of some sort, and off you go. Maybe you turn 90 degrees. Maybe you don't need to turn 90 degrees. And so usually that has a 750-pound weight capacity, and so that's a gracious plenty for most people. I'm going to share maybe a funny story. So not too many moons ago, I got asked by a manufacturer to go to the coast to look at a VPL that needed some repair work, because we also repair. We try not to sell things we can't repair. Ding, ding. Anyway, so off I go. And I get there, and I'm looking at this VPL, and I open up the cover, and I very quickly move away from the cover because there's quite a large bee's nest. This is outside, and it's on the inland waterway of North Carolina. This lift, by the way, had never been serviced. It was made in California and installed by a different vendor. So we service things that we didn't sell originally, which again makes us a little bit unique in the industry. And so, as it turns out, it did need some lubrication. It did need some bee extermination. And then what was this is what was wrong. 750-pound weight capacity, I told you a little earlier. The end user was 150. The chair was 350. And so as I'm looking over this equation and I'm looking at the lift, I go in and I put my detective cap on and I start asking questions. What was it doing before it stopped working, and blah, blah, blah. And so as it turns out, the caregiver was over 400. And the caregiver was riding in the carriage with the consumer in their chair, and that was stressing the unit. So needless to say, that was not a lengthy service call. An expensive one, but not very lengthy. So anyway, those are two ways to get you in and out of the house. Ramps, and let me expand on ramps a little bit more. Sometimes a rubber threshold or even an aluminum threshold ramp is really all you need to get the job done. Sometimes you don't need a whole lot. So again, those are two tangible things that you could have to get you in and out. So let's transition and talk about now you're inside. So, and I may move between thoughts that as they come to me, because I'm really speaking spontaneously or extemporaneously. And so as you go inside your home, you want to remove the rugs. Rugs are not your friend. Rugs promote falls. I'm talking about throw rugs, not area rugs. Oftentimes, if there is a mirror at the door, I would encourage you to get rid of that. Sometimes that can be a source of fear when a gray-headed saint goes into the house, promotes fear. Sometimes that promotes falling. So those are two things that you could do fairly quickly as you transition into the home. If you're in an older home, more than likely the bedroom is upstairs. And so you have to ask yourself the question, how in the world am I going to do this? Am I going to get mom and dad upstairs? Well, you could go with a stair lift. That'll move you from point A to point B. If you're in a split level, that can create quite a challenge, because then you have to ask yourself, am I going to buy 2 stair lifts to move them up or down? Or maybe you just put them on the ground floor and make some modifications in a bathroom. Seems strange to me. I'm not a builder, but it seems awfully strange that the bathroom door is the smallest door typically in the house. I don't understand what that thinking was, but it makes it really, really tough when you're trying to get them in and get them take care of personal hygiene things. I just don't understand that. Anyway, that's a side note. That's a source of frustration when I go into a home. Another thing that I see a lot is the light switches are a little too tall, especially if you're in a piece of mobility equipment. Here's another challenge that many people who want to stay at home face, and that is cooking. The chair, typically they're in a power chair, and the chair doesn't typically have a seat lift to enable them to get high enough to see inside the pot that they want to cook something in. That presents a real challenge. I will tell you that there are some manufacturers who offer seat lifts that are available for chairs and for scooters. That's really a separate conversation. But I do want you to know that they exist. As a matter of fact, if you can think it or even dream it sometimes in your mind, it probably exists. So since I brought up bathrooms, let me just expand on the bathroom for just a moment. So how do you get in? Let's assume you can. And maybe you have the equipment with you, maybe you don't. Maybe you need something a little bit more narrow. Maybe the door can be adjusted. Maybe some offset hinges can be put on the door so you get an extra 2 inches. So when the door swings open, they can go in with that extra 2 inches for whatever piece of equipment they have. That can be a big deal. So let's say you get inside. And again, there's so much out there that's available to help you bathe, whether you need a tub transfer bench or a tub seat or a tub woolly booger. It's amazing, all the stuff that's out there. We offer something very unusual. It's called a toilet lift. I tend to believe that if you're going to stay at home, thank you, sir. That was a beautiful segue. Thank you, Bruce. If you want to stay at home, you got to take care of your skin, you got to eat, and this unusual looking device is actually made in Europe. We import that. There's one that's just up and down, and then there's one that articulates, so it follows the natural way we sit to stand, and vice versa. Very unique product. Anyway, not inexpensive, but you'll probably never need another one. It's the BMW of toilet lifts. It's aluminum and German motors and whatnot. So I don't want to wow you too much. Anyhow, let's transition. And so let's talk about coming out of the bathroom now, and let's talk about something different. Let's talk about some equipment. Yeah, thank you. Oh, we'll talk about this. That's fine. Thank you very much. So this device is actually made in Canada. It's a very unusual pole, but you can have a lot of fun with the name of this thing. It's called the Super Pole, but we'll just keep it G. And so the bottom line is you can use it on the bed, you can use it next to the potty, at the tub, wherever you need it. You don't have to bolt it down. The grab bar swivels. It's got 8 different locking locations. I could wow you with more gee whiz information, but boy, oh boy, couldn't say enough good things. Here's what I really like about this particular product. It has the ability to be moved fairly quickly. And again, it doesn't have to be bolted down. So for that reason, this is a real contender. If you're going to stay at home and you're going to take care of your skin, this could be a big help, because a lot of gray-headed folks really like to have a bath. They really don't want a shower. They want a bath. And this might help you get over onto a tub transfer bench and then maybe down. There are lifts, there are bath lifts that will help you go down into the tub if that's what you want to do. It's available. There are lots of other things out there. There are devices that will go on your sink, and I don't think I have any of those images with me, but there are devices that will adapt to your sink so that you do not have to turn levers this way or with your hands this way. Maybe you've lost some fine motor skills and some dexterity, but in this particular case, this device, all you have to do is push and the water will come on. So there's just a lot of neat stuff out there to help you do whatever it is that you want to accomplish, and stay at home, stay mobile. So could you bring up my next slide, sir? I'm sorry. And here's one of the devices that I mentioned earlier. I can't take credit for this. I did not install this particular lift, but I love the dog. We've done some very creative things with clients, just to make their life a little bit more enjoyable while they're wrestling with their physiological challenges. And so we've put some stair lifts in from the basement to the first floor. Now, let me make a distinction for you. So you see the image with the dog. That's a stair lift for a straight set of stairs, and the one next to it is a curved unit. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit of a difference there. So the straight unit is not attached to the wall. A lot of times folks are talking to me and they say, well, I don't think my wall's strong enough to handle the stair lift. Well, here's the good news, friend. The good news is you don't have to do that. It's attached to the risers or the stairs. There's usually 3 or 4 attaching points, but you don't have to attach it to the wall. By the way, there is a weight limitation. So very important that we cover that whenever we're talking about a stair lift. And let me transition and go over here to the curved unit. That unit is always custom, never an exception. And it's probably going to start at about $11,000. So not inexpensive. The one next to it that's straight, that's going to run you at least $3,000. All right. So just want to make some fundamental differences. The downside of that curved unit is once the owners leave for whatever reason, usually the gaining party doesn't want that lift anymore. And so it might find its way to the street, which is sad, but that's sometimes what happens. The straight unit, on the other hand, can potentially be resold. And so we do dabble in some secondhand equipment. And if we can't help you with that, again, we'll try to get you wherever it is you want to go and get what you need. We don't have a Walmart supercenter, an unlimited amount of space. So anyway, I'm going to ask you to transition and I'll just take on the next slide, whatever that is. So this is a neat slide because it shows you on the right-hand side, from my vantage point, it shows you a threshold ramp. And that allows you just to move in and out. It just covers up that threshold. Again, I like rubber threshold mats because I can actually cut them. So they're moldable to whatever the house is. And they come in different heights. And again, they can be trimmed. Love that. It's a little bit more comfortable too when you're in a power chair and you're going over a rubber threshold ramp versus a metal one. But again, it doesn't work for everybody. So I'm going to transition and move over to the other side, and you see the ramp there that's outside. And from my vantage point, what I see is what's called a modular ramp system. It's kind of like Legos. So we measure and then we piece it together for you. So this is not considered permanent. It's actually considered portable. It still has to meet code, but it is something that could be moved. It could be anchored, but it doesn't absolutely have to be anchored. With this type of ramp system, you will have to have rails. You gotta have the rails. Sometimes clients call me and they try to
save $1. And I have to say, no, we cannot do that without rails. We would put you at risk, and we can't do that.
So again, there are ramps that if they're below a certain length, you don't have to have rails, but this would not be one of those. We're going to have to put the rails on for you. So at the top there, you can see there's a 90-degree, I think you can see there's a 90-degree turn that ushers you to the front door. So hopefully that gives you a better picture of what's available out there in the marketplace. And that's an aluminum one. So the benefit of aluminum again is it really doesn't need any maintenance. It's going to be there until. So earlier I mentioned a type of ramp system that we offer that is available in different widths and different lengths. And this is it. It's made here in the United States. It's actually made in North Dakota. And it is available in any length that we need, which is kind of crazy on one hand that you could do that with a ramp. It rolls up, I say, like an armadillo or a roll of paper towels, if that's what you need. You see the young lady there? I'm not sure she's actually lifting that, but nonetheless, it does roll up. I like to put them on a furniture dolly, and then I can roll them anywhere I need to and actually strap them. So you can see in the lower, on my end, the lower left-hand corner, that particular roller ramp has rails. So it meets the requirement for rails. The one on the right-hand side, lower right, doesn't need a rail. Okay. So this particular ramp system has a 1,000-pound weight capacity. It's the best, I believe, on the market. You'd have to really work hard at beating this thing up before you would do anything to it. So, and it also has, I think, one of the best warranties. So we actually have ramps like this. And the other previous slide, we have these in stock. So we can show you, you can make an appointment, you could call our office and come by and kick the tires, and you could say, hey, why don't you impress me and show me these ramps? I'd love to see them. We actually have a program where you could literally take something home and try it. Although, we can't do that every single day, but we do try to make that available to people so they can see, well, this is what it looks like. So anyway, how about the next slide, sir? Very good. Well, this is the vertical platform lift I mentioned earlier. So you can see there's one out and one inside the house. Again, this is 750-pound weight capacity. One of the most important things to remember about this is if it is outside, we do require that there be an electrical outlet within 6 feet of the VPL, principally because that's how much electrical cord we have. We got to get close enough so that we can plug into the outlet, and we recommend a ground fault circuit interrupter outlet on the outside to be able to accommodate that, preferably one with a cover. So if you don't understand that, you can ask me and I'll explain that a little bit better. So the one on the left-hand side from where I'm standing is, again, that's an interior model. So you can see there's a gentleman inside the carriage and he's in a piece of mobility equipment moving him from point A to point B. I was in a garage recently, and the lady of the house, her mother actually needed a VPL. She had one, but it wasn't working any longer. And so my job was to determine whether or not it is repairable, and if so, at what cost. This unit was made in 2009. When I talked to the manufacturer, of which we are a vendor, no parts available. So the sad news is not repairable. Can't do it. Don't offer parts anymore. There's good and bad to that. I won't go into that at the moment, but I'm just sharing to share that was something that happened in the last week. And again, it's just going to move up and down. And when you get to where you're going, there's going to be a ramp door that opens, ushering you wherever you need to go. And again, on the right-hand side picture, you see there's a caregiver in that picture. But that person and the end user and their equipment does not exceed $750. So may I have the next slide, sir? So these are some, wow, it's a lot of grab bars in that bathroom. Woo! Um, yeah, I mean, probably, let me just tell you my personal preference when it comes to a grab bar. I like knurled, Knurled. I like knurled grab bars. Here's why. They got extra grip. So you don't care for them, that's just fine. I just prefer those personally just because when you grab onto a knurled bar, they make it easier for you to stay with it instead of letting go and sliding. If you were to call me and say, Brian, can you provide the suction cup kind? The answer will be no. I don't sell them. I'm not going to be involved with that. That doesn't hold up long term, so we're not going to do that. Anyway, may I have the next slide, please? So earlier we were talking about inside, outside. This is obviously an inside piece of hardware. It's a lift chair. We sell them. We repair them. We deliver them. So let me just tell you a little bit about the lift chair. There's essentially two different models. There's a 2 and a 3-way. I like to call them the napping model and the sleeping model. The napping model will allow you to kind of go back just a little bit, and maybe you're watching your favorite show and you can just kind of cat nap and saw some logs and then you're done. And it'll bring you up and dump you out. The other one is a 3-way, and the 3-way is going to take you into the sleep position. This particular chair on this slide is a pleather. It's a vinyl chair. So it's ideal if you have bladder challenges or bowel challenges because it's easy to clean. If you don't have those challenges, then a fabric model may be just what you need. Because obviously vinyl is not for everybody, but for cleaning purposes, it's really, really, really attractive. So again, those are the fundamental differences, a 2 and a 3-way. And then you have differences of feature. You can have heat. You can have a CD player. I'm teasing. There is no CD player. Sorry. That's a lie. You can have fabric or you can have vinyl. And it really depends on your pocketbook and how comfortable you want to be. I got my mom one. It has a half lap tray that comes out of the arm. So I made some brownie points with that one, but anyhow, those are the two chairs. That's essentially what they offer. May I have the next slide, sir? This is a very interesting product. This is actually called a shower commode rehab chair. So this is ideal if you like to bathe outside. Obviously not a lot of people. And then if you're going to bathe inside, you need a roll-in shower. So it's got a pan if you need to potty. It's got a back. Got a seat belt. It's got swing away front riggings, locking casters, locking rear wheels, a lot of aluminum or stainless. So hopefully it won't rust. Hopefully it'll last you a long, long, long time. I'll tell you one of the things that I see a lot in the marketplace when it comes to this particular chair, it's not fitted properly for the end user. And so that's going to be brutally important. I'm pretty critical of chairs. If I see somebody with their knee and their chin, I know they're not fitted properly for the chair. And so I'm probably going to have some objection to that for that reason. So let's have the next slide, sir. Thank you. So this device, boy, I get a lot of calls about this. This is a patient lift. The one on the, again, from my vantage point, is on the right-hand side. That is, in fact, a patient lift. You can see it goes underneath the bed and goes over the bed. Definitely weight appropriate. Very, very important. Oh my goodness. The sling is also very important. And I see a lot of mistakes in slings, meaning folks have the wrong sling for their particular need. So maybe they need a commode cutout because they're just going to lift mom or dad over and down, take care of business, and they're back in the bed. Or they're going to transition to a piece of mobility equipment and off they go. This particular device, you got to be able to go underneath the bed. Very, very important. And it's got locking casters. So once you get it in place, if you're uncomfortable, you lock it. And then when you're ready to move, this precious cargo that you're responsible for, Then you unlock and you're going to move it where you need to be. A lot of fear in this product because when you're swaying, you're very fearful that the person who's driving is going to drop you. If it's latched in the 4 places that it needs to be, that's not possible. And by the way, for those of you who are uber safety conscious, there is a manual override to allow the boom to come down if in fact you were to lose battery power. So, and by the way, we do sell these and we repair them. So let's transition, move over to the one next door. That is a sit to stand lift. So you can see the gentleman has his feet in, it's on a platform, and then his calves are in what we call a knee blocker position. So, and then he's got a gait belt or some type of strapping, maybe a chest harness around his back. And so he can't fall. Let me say it again. He can't fall. It's impossible. So if he's, if he's set up correctly, things are good. Life is good. Because I know gray-headed saints don't want to fall. Neither do I. It's, I think, the number one fear besides talking in front of people. Let's move on to the next one. Thanks very much. So here you have, this is a very unusual product as well. I keep saying that. There's a pattern there. So this is a ceiling mounted overhead patient lift. And it is power. There are manual models, but this particular one is powered. And so you can see the caregiver is moving Fred, or whatever this gentleman's name is. You can see he's moving him in a position in both of those places. And let me just take a moment and share something with you that's incredibly important. We sell adjustable beds and we repair them. And you can see in this left-hand picture where this person of color is working with this other person. And you can see that the width of that bed might not be as wide as what you would like for it to be. So it is brutally, brutally important to make sure that if you're going to be in something like a bed, that it is comfortable. As far as I'm concerned, if it's not comfortable, it's not worth having. It doesn't matter what you pay for it. And especially as you get older. So one of the most important things, at least for the beds issue, is it wide enough? Can you turn over? And turning over can also mean hygiene related issues. Might be very helpful to have a wider bed. So that's all I'm going to say about those. This particular one, I want to just share with you. We do not install overhead lift systems. That's something that you would probably want to reach out to the North Carolina Home Builders Association and ask specifically for a certified aging in place specialist that has a background in overhead lift systems. I'm actually a certified aging in place specialist, but that is one product that we just simply do not do. We could probably repair it, but we're not going to install it. There's a different liability involved with that product. So yeah, have the next slide, sir. Thank you. So we also offer accessible vehicles. We install ramps. We also install lift systems, both internally and externally, on automobiles that can be adapted. Not everything will accommodate a lift. You can't put a ramp in a smart car. It's not going to happen. And may I humbly suggest to you, if you're thinking about getting something for accessibility, please call me before you buy something, rather than go buy something and then have the conversation with me. May I just humbly ask you to do that, because you might be disappointed once you have this conversation with me. And I say to you, no, it cannot be adapted to this boat anchor that you want to carry with you. Anyway, so let's talk about these images. You see in the upper left-hand corner, again, from my perspective, you see a ramp coming out of the side. So that would be a side entry. One next to it is also a side entry. Let's move downward into the center lower picture, and that is a rear entry. So let me talk about side versus rear for just a moment. Some of these big box stores that are out there now have these parking spaces that are made differently than what they used to be made like. And it doesn't really matter if you have a side entry because there's oodles and oodles of room for you to get out and get back in. However, some parking spaces you can get out just fine if you have a side entry, but getting back in, if there's a rude American who's taken up that space, you are just going to wait until they come back. That's a sad day. That's a hair loss day. If you have a rear entry, on the other hand, you can get in and out, regardless of where you park, for the most part. There may be some exceptions to that. But something to keep in mind. I realize that a rear entry is not for everybody. It's like that extra large t-shirt. It doesn't work. But it is something that gives you a choice. You have an option. If you don't know that option, then you're not going to entertain that and you'll just go buy something. And you may be sad at that point. So let me speak to the cost of an accessible vehicle. Those are not inexpensive pieces of hardware. And they usually start at about $33 and they go way up from there. There are even voice activated driving vehicles. I'm not sure I want to be on the road with that, but they do exist. We don't do those. So let me just clarify that. But they exist. So if you wanted to talk about accessible vehicles, be happy to have a conversation with you about them. Now, let me transition and just move kind of sort of along that same vein. There is another device that we offer, and it is in fact an accessible equipment trailer. It's a lot less expensive than an accessible vehicle, but a lot of folks, they don't care for them because they don't want to back. And I may not have an image of that trailer. It's okay. There it is. Boy, you're good. Man, this is a good technician. So this is the trailer. It has an available top or not. You don't have to have the trailer. Comes with a spare tire. Comes with a special gee whiz lock. You know, it's got a tongue jack. I mean, it's just loaded. CD player. No CD player. Sorry. But anyway, that is an option. But again, the objection that most people have to this particular product, this trailer, is they don't want to back them. And you know what? Who can argue? That's okay. If you don't want to back a trailer, don't do it. Don't buy it. But it's a far less expensive option than an accessible vehicle. And we have one. We can show it to you. Matter of fact, you could rent it. You could rent it for a weekend. Take it to Mardi Gras. I don't know. You can just see what you think about it. The lifts that are above the trailer in these images, we can help you with that. Now, I think the one on the upper left is a carrier, if I can see that correctly. You know, my vision's not what it used to be. So that looks like a carrier. And that is strictly something that goes into your hitch or your receiver. It's stationary and it has a built-in ramp. We do carriers. Some slide, some ramps slide in, some fold, and then they also will collapse. Usually a carrier will also swing up toward the vehicle when the equipment is not on it. Those are about $600. If you move over to the right, you see looks like a Kia Sedona van there with a interior lift system, maybe a hybrid lift. I'm not sure at this point, but I will tell you that moves into some dollars. You're probably looking at about $4,500. And again, it doesn't fit every vehicle. It may not fit your piece of equipment, but it's simply something that does exist that we could talk about for whatever you have, whatever mobility equipment you have. You know, folks get these big pieces of equipment, they want to take them with them, and that's understandable. So let's transition, sir. Thank you. Oh boy. So we got some sassy three-wheelers here. So we provide scooters, meaning we sell them, we rent them, we repair them, we modify them, we can accessorize them, all of the above. You see 3 and 4. So I want to speak to that for just a moment. This is one of the most important things that I get asked about. What's the difference? Here it is. It's the turning. It's simply the turning. If you're inside and you need to be able to turn, get you to point A or from A to B, a three-wheeler is going to be a better option. Now, I know we're in NASCAR country. I know that. I know folks like to go fast. And most folks, especially a man, will say, well, how fast does this scooter go, Brian? That's really not the question. The question is, how are you going to use this piece of equipment? What are you going to do with this thing? Especially if they're renting. So, we modify them with the video cameras to keep track of our customers. Anyway, a three-wheeler is going to turn so much easier. A four-wheeler, you're going to probably have to do a Y turn in order to go in a different direction. And that might not be attractive for you. So here's my suggestion. If you're thinking about getting one of these things, it might be wise for you to call and rent one for the weekend and see what you like and see what you don't like, because I'm sure you'll have an opinion. And then you can make a decision. So I want to transition, just say one other thing about the far right-hand side image. You see a gentleman in a blue scooter. By the way, there are not many scooter makers in America today. Not many at all. I can only think of two. And that's one of them. And you see that gentleman, looks like he's at a workbench, and the seat has swiveled 180. And so he's able to work on something with his hands. And that probably helps him, especially his mental health. I know it would me. And so here's the benefit of that particular device versus a power chair, because not all power chair seats swivel, but most scooter seats do. And so if you go somewhere, let's say the zoo, yard sale, wherever you're going, and maybe you're going to a restaurant, and you can turn that seat 180 degrees, you don't have to stand up, which means you're not going to fall. And you can eat in that seat and not fall. So those are some of the fundamental differences between a 3 and a 4. I will say there's some common things, and one of them is, again, swivel seat, solid tires, so you can't have a flat no matter how hard you try to run over people. And then number 3 would be a front basket. You can also tell in these images that there is difference of seats. So the beefier the seat, the more you're going to pay. That's a good rule of thumb. But there's another difference too, and that would be the size of the batteries. So in the scooter, in the upper left-hand side, there are 2 sizes of batteries that are available for that scooter. You can have either one. One below, again, you're going to bump up. And that's going to take you further. So the range of the upper left-hand corner is between 7 and 17 miles on one charge. The one in the lower image, 25 miles. So would this be a good time to break for questions?
Should we ask if anybody has a question?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to yield the floor to our audience and see if you have anything you'd like to ask, because I've covered a lot of information.
What type of funding is available for any of these accessibility options?
So the question is, how do these things get paid for? That's essentially what Bruce is asking. And so there is, let's talk about Medicare, because they set the standard for the industry. Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance does not pay for ramps. I'm not aware of any set of circumstances where they fund ramp systems. Now, if you were in a situation where you had access to a reverse mortgage, those funds can be used in any way that you want to, unless something has drastically changed. And so in that way, you could use those funds toward making your home accessible so you could stay there. But Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance does not pay for ramp systems. They do not pay for modifications to vehicles or vertical platform lifts or stair lifts. So by and large, the majority of what we provide would be an out-of-pocket expense. Now, there are third-party finance companies that are available, and we can refer you to several. You might want to have a conversation with your financial institution, whatever that is, whether it's a bank or a credit union, some other lender. You'd probably want to have a conversation with them, because they might give you a better deal than a third-party finance company. So what else?
It occurs to me that you have just given us so much information, and people may have a sense they need something, but not even know where to start, what might be out there. Is it typical for you or people who do the kinds of things you do to come into the home and do an assessment? Or how do you help them find out what's there?
Yeah, so over the last 2+ decades, I've learned to ask a lot of good questions on the front end of the conversation, and sometimes I go into the home. Not every time. I had a conversation today, for example, with a gentleman in McKinney, Texas, and he wanted a pool lift. I'm not going to McKinney, Texas, unless he offers to pay for me to go. And so I'm gonna ask this gentleman a barrage of questions. The first thing I asked him was, could I send him an email message? And in so doing, he has all of my contact information. And I asked him for pictures of the pool and the layout around the pool and the steps and the access to everything around him. So I'm hoping I get about a dozen pictures. If I don't, I'm going to ask for more so I can see. So again, in some cases, I'm going to go into the home and assess. If it's for a piece of mobility equipment, I need to measure your body. I need to get close enough to you, whether that's you come to my office or I come to you, and I need to measure your body. There's 5 measurements that I'm going to take. So we get a chair that's going to be appropriate for you, hopefully not just today, but for 3 to maybe 7 years down the road. That's the goal. Yes, sir.
Are there any type of organizations that might be in many communities that someone could turn to find an aging in place specialist?
Yeah, good question. And so where can you go to find a certified aging in place? And you can actually do that at the North Carolina Home Builders Association. You can go on their website and you can do that for any state. Doesn't make any difference. And if they have that designation, that acronym, they'll show up on their website. So you can, and as a matter of fact, builders are on that website too. And sometimes we work with builders because we don't do what they do and vice versa. And so we're able to say, hey, you don't do a vertical platform lift. We could help you with that. And so they're happy to install it, and we're happy to have them install it. That's just wonderful. And we'll provide whatever it is they need, a diagram, a layout, the specs. We'll spoon feed them. We sure will. Be happy to do that for them. Yep. So
I have one more question. You've talked a lot about ways that people can stay mobile, they can be more independent. But you mentioned picking up those throw rugs. Do you have a few things that are on the top of your list of just plain safety in the home ideas?
yeah, well, those were the 2 that come to my mind very quickly because I traveled about 26 to 30,000 miles a year. I'm on the road a great deal. That's why I don't have much hair left. And so anyhow, not going to a home and I see that mirror, that's a red flag to me. Because if you're gray-headed saint and you come in, whether it's your home or somebody else's, and you see that mirror and it's dark or it's night, it's going to frighten you, or it has the potential to frighten you. And so that, in my opinion, I'd take that down. If it was my parents, they'd be gone. Throw rugs, tripping hazard, get rid of them. Now, when is it appropriate to have a throw rug in front of a lift chair? Especially a vinyl lift chair. Because I don't know if you remember the song, Slip Sliding Away. Sometimes you can do that in a vinyl lift chair. And so I was in a home recently where I provided a chair, and that's what I said to the daughter. This gray-headed saint lives with the daughter. And so I said, hey, you need to consider a throw rug and put some anti-slip material underneath that. And I told her exactly what she needed to get. So mom doesn't slide. Very important. Yes, ma'am. So what else? Anything else come to mind?
Do you have one last wrap-up kind of thing you'd like to say to your audience?
Yeah, I was in a home, I was in several earlier today. This was in the town of Rural Hall, Metro Rural Hall. Thank God they're paved roads there. And so this lady called me, and her husband has MS, and they have a scooter that's probably greater than 20 years of age. And so the scooter is misbehaving. Just got an attitude. And so their adult children had recently installed new batteries, but the batteries were testing at 20.4 volts. You say, well, Brian, what's the big deal? Okay, that's a fair question. Thanks for asking. And so this is a 24-volt system. 20.4 volts is not going to hold up. So you got bad batteries. You need to go back to the vendor and appeal, because these batteries are under warranty. Okay, so I'm going to help them with another project that's there, but this vendor needs to honor the warranty on the batteries, and they need to get new batteries for them. And so she's tickled pink. You know, her husband's going to be mobile again. He can go to the mailbox. That's all he wants to do, is just go to the mailbox. That's it. The mailbox is probably a half mile in another direction. So thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. That's Brian Keith. Didn't he give you a tremendous amount of information about how we can stay more independent and be safe while we're doing it? Thanks again, Brian, for being with us tonight. And special thanks again to our sponsor, Home Instead. Our program next month will be on Thursday, June 15th at 6 p.m. We will be meeting at the Senior Resources of Guilford in Greensboro, and of course, we'll be online as well. We'd love to see you with us face to face so we can have a conversation with our speaker and with each other. We will be talking next month, with June 15th, about sensory losses and aging. What does that mean? What are the impacts? If you would like to be notified about our upcoming programs, please like us on Facebook and at ACAP Guilford, or register for any of our upcoming programs on our website at ACAP Community. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, and we'll see you next month.